Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wassalatu wassalamu ala wal mursaleen nabiyyina Muhammadi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'du, assalamu alaikum. Regular fiqh hour, not exactly on the hour, but near enough on the hour. Alhamdulillah. And there to provide some answers to your questions, some solutions to your queries, inshallah, regards to the aura of a woman. So this is quite a lengthy one because depending on the circumstances of the people around, then there is a different understanding. So let me just share my notes there. Okay, so we're going to focus in particular. It is accepted that everything is her aura except for her hands and her face, and the muftabihi which is given includes the feet as well. That is in Salah. Okay, so then outside of Salah, it depends who is around her. So for instance, it could be that her husband is around her. It could be that mahram are around her. It could be that ghair mahram are around her. So let's just go with that. So aura in privacy, then aura in privacy, then aura in privacy means that this is just like you're on your own, you're at home. Not a cold day like this, but it's a hot day. So in those circumstances, then the aura should still be taken into consideration. What we mean is that a person should still cover themselves even if they are alone. Okay, this is the correct view that we have. So that would be the aura which is considered in that case is between the navel and the knees. Okay, this is for man and woman. This is when there's nobody else there in the house at all, and there is just the person on their own. So if they so wished, for whatever reason, it's extremely hot, whatever, then that is the minimum that they should have uncovered. There are obviously times out of necessity where a person will also uncover between their aura and their knee. Obviously, when we answer the call of nature, when we have a shower, and also obviously when there's intimacy going on between husband and wife, and also when you're changing clothes, naturally your aura will get uncovered. But the bare minimum, the aura is between the navel and the knee. That's for the man and the woman if they are alone. There's nobody else there. Meaning the man is alone and the woman is alone. You are absolutely on your own. There's nobody else there. In front of a husband, obviously, the aura is there is no aura as such between a husband and wife. There is nothing which is considered as haram for obvious reasons. The next one is the aura in front of women. Okay, and the aura, and this is Muslim women. So what is the aura of a woman in front of Muslim women? Then it is the same as the aura of a man in front of other men. So like we said, when a woman is alone, she must have at least between her navel and her knee. And remember, whenever I speak about the front part of the body, then the back part of the body has the same hukam. So when we say between the navel and the knee, okay, now, person's navel is sort of there, right? Which will be, I don't know how well you can see this, but which will be equivalent to there. Okay, on my, I don't know if you can see that. If you can, you get an idea anyway. Imagine if I put a knife, not that I would want to do this. Imagine I put a sword through my navel. It would obviously come out of my back. So my lower back is part of my aura, which is between the navel and the knee. So we always speak from the front of the body, because the front of the body has got more things to describe it with. Whereas the back of the body is just pretty basic. It's just like a back. Okay, so the navel is there. Okay, obviously everybody's got a navel, and everybody knows where their navel is, so I don't know why I did that. So equally, exactly at the back, if you were to put a knife or a sword through your navel, it would come at the end about so high on your back. So anything beneath that would be the aura. So like a man has to maintain that aura between in when he's with his when he's out and about in front of men. Then similarly, a woman in front of Muslim women has to have that covered. Okay, in front of Muslim women, she should cover between her navel and her knee in front of Muslim women. We're going to come back to this. Okay, we're going to come back to this point. Well, actually, no, since I'm here, I might as well mention it. Now, obviously, there is an expectation that Muslim women are, sensible, decent, upright. If there's any fear, then a woman shouldn't, this is just permissibility. This doesn't mean that, a woman thinks, oh, okay, I only have to cover between my navel and knee in front of Muslim women. So in front of my sisters, I'll do this or I'll do that. There's a lot of common sense that obviously, even though permissibility is there, it does not mean that you have to go as far as that. Okay. What about the woman's? Remember, the man's aura stays the same at all times. When he's alone between his navel and his knee, when he is in front of other men between his navel and his knee, and even when he's out working on the, out on the field, and there's women looking at him between his navel and his knee. So his aura stays the same at all circumstances. The woman's aura changes, as we said, when she is alone between her navel and her knee. When she is with a husband, then obviously there's permissibility because for obvious reasons. And that shows that in exceptional circumstances, a man and a woman may not have anything between their navel and knee in exceptional circumstances. And when a woman is in front of Muslim women, then again, it is between her navel and her knee. When it comes to being in front of her yani mahram men, okay, mahram men like a son, a grandson, father, brother, uncle, yeah, then it is slightly higher. So the navel is there. Then it is about there. You know where the rib cage sort of starts? Okay, you can feel your rib cage here. So where your rib cage starts is there. So the stomach is now included. And as we've said before, whatever is at the front is included here as well. So you would, imagine if you put a sword through, like we put a sword through the navel, and whatever came out the other side. So the back of the body has the same hukum as the front of the body. So in this case, it's the stomach and also whatever is equivalent to it at the rear. And this is with mahram men. But like we said yesterday, that doesn't mean that we walk without anything above this in front of our sons, in front of our fathers, in front of our brothers. It is talking about permissibility. Okay, permissibility. And if you remember, I did at length say that if obviously there is always a fear that there would be inappropriate sort of engagement with her, then obviously she should cover herself. And again, we'll touch upon that point. When it comes in front of non-mahram males, then the non-mahram males, it's everything, okay? Yani the whole body, except for her face and for her hands. The feet, according to some, are included within for mahram non-mahram males. Okay, that is the more cautious opinion. Obviously, the feet can be shown in the less cautious one. So, as I explained to you a few days back, last week or something, in that you would base it on circumstances. In some cases, if just the top part of the foot showed, it wouldn't be a major issue. So that is non-mahram. When it comes to women, okay, non-Muslim women, then there is vast opinions. Okay, let me just send this. So there are vast opinions, okay, In some cases, it mentions that for non-mahram, some cases it mentions that for non-mahram women, then it should be similar to, in that her whole body should be covered except for her face and for her hands and her feet. But we know that that is a difficult position for women to adopt. Okay, for women to adopt. So there is a difficult position for women to adopt. Okay, for women to adopt. So there is another view in which obviously the woman would take the necessary approach based on the circumstances, meaning that she would cover herself as best as possible. You know, for example, if a woman goes, I don't know, I can't really think of anything, but let's just say she's in a circumstances where yani her arms have to show, or her shoulders have to show, or her back has to show, or you know, something has to show in front of other women, and then there is that opinion that she can adopt. Okay, so basically she tries her best in front of non-Muslim women. She tries her best in this case, to the best of her ability, bearing in mind the circumstances. But the thing to bear in mind, okay, is that really, even when it comes to women, especially non-Muslim women, the argument that is made as to why, for even Muslim women, the argument that is made is, why is a woman's aura completely different in front of Muslim women than it is in front of Muslim men, for example? Why is that? And the reason for that is two things. One is because obviously women are the same gender as women. And the second reason is because of absence of shahwa. They're the two reasons. Otherwise, a woman would cover the same in front of women as she would cover in front of men. But she doesn't cover in front of men as she doesn't cover in front of women as she covers in front of men. And the reason why she doesn't cover in front of women as she covers in front of men is because one is they're the same gender. And the second thing is obviously that there is an absence of desire. However, and this is the bit I was going to add near the end, because now obviously, unfortunately, we have this definition now of sexual orientation rather than gender. In the good old days, basically, your gender determined your sexual orientation. There weren't two separate things. If you were a man, then you liked women, and if you were a woman, you liked men. You know, that's how it was. But now, obviously, you can be a gender and have a different sexual orientation. So you could be a woman, but you could like women, or you could have been a man that's changed into a woman and you like women. You know, it's confusing now. So a woman would take those necessary precautions as she would see fit, depending on where she is and who she is with. But that gives an overview of the aura concept. Okay, so that's okay. I was just wondering if somebody had responded back to any of the aura questions. So that covers that, alhamdulillah. Hopefully that's a detailed last bit I was going to say, I made notes here, then I forgot that when it comes to covering one's aura, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can have any type of material to cover your aura. The material shouldn't be transparent. Okay, so it should be it should be something which the skin can't be seen through. Okay, and secondly, it must be sort of loose. Yeah, so like you can't make the shape of my forearm, for example, in here. You can't make the shape of my shoulders and arms because obviously I go to the gym, alhamdulillah, so I'm exceptionally muscular. But the forearm you can't tell, obviously, because the sleeve is so loose, so you can't tell. So I'm particularly in reference, obviously, to a woman, in that when she wears clothing, she should ensure that it is not transparent, And at the same time, she needs to ensure that it is loose, because it kind of defeats the object if it is transparent, because now you can see the woman's body, and it also defeats the object if it fits to the body, because you are now the woman's body is visible through there. Okay, so Assalamu alaikum. In the Adhkar, wazinata arshihi, yeah, praising Allah by the weight of his throne. How is this to be understood? Like weight of the throne literally? Yeah, you would take the weight of the throne literally, absolutely, because of the fact that we expect the throne to be one of, or we know the throne to be one of Allah's greatest creations. So being a great creation, we expect it to be magnanimous, huge, tremendous. So yeah, you would take it in the literal sense. Can women cut their hair to beautify herself for a husband? No, there is this misconception that beautifying for the husband means that everything is halal. No, what that means really is that what we see in this present day and age is that when a woman is at home, for example, then she will wear, the kind of roughest clothes that she normally has to work around the house. She may not apply any perfume. She won't apply any makeup or anything. And, she may not even brush her hair. But when she's going out to a wedding or an event or something, then suddenly, she'll be in front of the mirror for hours. Her best clothes come out. Her best footwear comes out. She brushes her hair. She oils it. She straightens it and all the rest of it. Even the husband doesn't recognize her when she walks past him. Like he thinks, okay, who was that? So that's the point that's being made, that a woman should make effort for her husband. That does not legitimize that the woman can now, commit illegal acts like, pluck her eyebrows or cut her hair short, or dress inappropriately when going out, or to, go out with him with his friends or whatever. It doesn't mean that, just because this is what my husband wants. You hear this phrase being often used, that woman, that she's with her parents and she doesn't do what her parents want, and she doesn't do what Allah wants, she doesn't do what her prophet wants, but then suddenly, she wants to do everything her husband wants. And when you ask the husband goes, I don't know what she's on about. Because the woman is just using her husband's name to say, oh, look, in order for me to stay in this marriage, I have to do these things. No, absolutely not. All one does is the permissible acts. Okay. One cannot do impermissible acts. There is no obedience to the creation in the disobedience of the creator. So one has to be very careful about those things. Do you need wudu to touch the Quran on a mobile screen? Yes, I adopt that position, in which it is more of an ihtiyat position. Whenever we have acts of worship, then we should adopt a more precautious view. And the more precautious view is that, yes, we do, when we are touching the screen, then we do adopt that wudu is required. That is the best way. Next one is, Assalamu alaikum, is purchasing car breakdown permissible? Yeah, this is sometimes a challenging one, because it can be akin to insurance. And that's why people get sometimes confused by that this is very similar to insurance, because you pay a premium monthly, and you can either use that breakdown cover, or you don't use that breakdown cover. So if, say, you pay £20 a month, at the end of the year, you pay £240, and you don't know if you're going to use the car breakdown cover or not use the car breakdown cover. The other thing is, and if you do use the car, and another person could be paying £20 a month, and he uses the car breakdown people 3 times in the year. Each time is roughly £500, because they have to drag him from somewhere in the middle of the M1 and take him all the way back home. And so it's around £500. So he basically gets £1,500 in return. So it sounds like it's a bit of a gamble. Okay. So the permissibility has been granted on the grounds that this is a service that you basically pay a premium to say that I want you to be available. I don't know when I'm going to use you. You can carry on doing what you're doing, but I will ring you sometimes. And when I ring you sometime, I want you to pick me up. Okay. So it's a bit like, for example, having a chauffeur sat in your front room and you just get on with your day. And the chauffeur says that as long as he's paid X number of pounds a month, he will sit there ready for you to take you wherever you want. So a few days you decide you don't want to go anywhere. And then on the Saturday you decide you want to go somewhere. So you say, all right, we're going to go to Manchester. So your driver gets ready and takes you to Manchester. So that's the way it has been considered sound practice to adopt breakdown cover. Assalamu alaikum wa salam. Is jinn possession and magic real or irrational cultural belief? Is jinn possession and magic mentioned, supported by Quran and Hadith, the way people bang on about it? Oh, okay. So, okay, the next Hadith says, Assalamu alaikum wa Amjad, I hope all is well, inshallah, barakallah fiqh. Yes, Iman, all is good, alhamdulillah. So question ISIS. Oh, goodness me. Question is there authentic hadith or Quranic ayat to support actual jinn possession when Iblis can only whisper? Is there any evidence that magic exists that's caused direct harm to people when we know jinn can only whisper? Okay, so when it comes to jinns, right, then there is nothing to indicate that jinns can possess by the understanding of the word, which is to go inside somebody and control their body and make them do acts in that way. Can jinns manipulate? Can jinns affect? Can jinns whisper? Can they impact? Can they be perverse in their engagement with humans? Absolutely, yes. And there's plenty, within the Quran and Hadith which supports that. We already know that, when we enter the lavatory, well, not enter the lavatory, that would be a silly thing to do. But when we enter the room which has the toilet in it, then we read the dua, don't we? Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-khubathi wal khaba'ith. And when we translate the khubath and khaba'ith, we are told that this is in reference to the male and female jinn who may the kind of engage with the person when he's in the bathroom. So there is without doubt an impact. There is without doubt an effect. There is without doubt an engagement that takes place. There's no doubt about that. But can a jinn control the human completely and go inside of him and take over him? Then there is nothing to show that occurs. Many people use examples of things that they've watched on YouTube or whatever and say, look, there it is, there it is, there it is. I always point to the fact that you find lots of women in particular that are supposedly possessed by jinn. And in particular, you find young girls or close to puberty or just post-puberty adolescent girls that are supposedly possessed. And it's always strange that it's always young girls and it's not, boys or men that are possessed. So, it seems to be that, there's always an inclination towards that. And this whole concept of exorcism didn't really exist within Islam. There's been no reports of exorcisms. This really came about mainly in Catholicism. And they would use the name of Christ, as they would call it, and the holy water in order to draw out this evil spirit that had possessed this young girl. And it tended to be, 9 times out of 10, if not 10 out of 10. In fact, 9, I only say 9 out of 10 because, never say 10 out of 10 unless it's absolute yaqeen statement. So it's unfortunate, and you find that it exists pretty much so in certain cultures and not in other cultures. So it's always strange that jinns are pretty careful and quite picky about which cultures to possess and which cultures not to possess. Many of these things can be resolved, obviously, because of mental breakdowns and people being impacted by extreme pressure. But there's no doubt, obviously, that jinns can influence. Absolutely, shayateen can influence That's why at all times, you know, when a person becomes angry, he becomes angry because shaitan has influenced him. That's why we say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, when we become angry. Why? Because anger is brought about by a jinn, by a shaitan. He is brought about, whispering, whatever, you know. Similarly, when we eat and we don't get full, it could be because we didn't say basmala at the beginning. And if we didn't say basmala, then the jinn, the shayateen are eating with us. And when they're eating with us, then we eat and we think, okay, how come I've not got full? You know, I've sat here for half an hour and I've eaten and I still feel hungry. Okay, so because he's been eating with you. So yeah, they exist, there's no doubt. Why do we recite du'as over our children when we put them to sleep? Again, to protect them. So yes, absolutely. But there is no evidence to say that they are possession. Can magic exist? Yes, again, black magic exists. Okay, there is an absolute evidence for that. The only thing is that how, you know, when people say that, is how can a person ascertain that somebody is being impacted by black magic? Because that's ilmul ghaib. That's knowledge of the unseen. That's knowledge, because no one knows. You don't see it. You don't hear a knock on your door and you go and answer your door and there's like black kind of cloud saying, I am magic outside. And you think, oh goodness me, there's black magic here. Oh, let me read the note from so and so. Oh, right, that person sent me it. You know, there's no way of knowing that. So black magic exists without doubt. People do cast spells on people. The only thing is, though, is that how do you know who's done it? You can't, because it's ilmul ghaib, it's knowledge of the unseen, and you cannot go to someone to ask them, oh, by the way, you know, has black magic been done on me? And he says, yeah, it has. Okay. I bet it's my mother-in-law. You know, I really hate her. Who's done it? Leave it with me for a couple of minutes. Oh, I think it's your mother-in-law. Whoa, look, I told you. Look, he's even proved it. Right. Okay. And you know what? I saw her pottering about near those bins the other day. I bet she's put it behind there. So, you know, where she put this thing? Oh, do you have some bins outside in your back garden? Yes, I do. Look at that. He knows. So we're just kind of fulfilling this imaginary thing where we've already made our mind up about who it is and where it is and whatever. And again, you find most people involved with black magic, unfortunately, are women. So you tend to find that this seems to be, that going on in that particular society, in that particular community, and this is what's going on. So, that's something we just need to stray away from. In fact, if you go back to the kind of European times when Christianity was rife, there was a lot of women that were burnt at the stake and killed because it was assumed they were witches, and that's what happened to them. So let's just hopefully that deals with Usman's dilemma. Sitting during tashahhud in Salah, can we sit resting our bottom on our heels, or is it only one way, which is resting your feet to the right hand side? Yeah. For a woman in particular, remember the woman's salah, I'm assuming you're asking for a woman. The woman's salah is also something which needs to maintain satar or aura in it. So what we mean by that is, so for example, a man, he lifts his hands to his ears. When you lift your hands to the ears, you naturally move your hands away from your chest. Now that's no problem for a man, but for a woman, for obvious reasons, she lifts her hands only to her shoulders, and when she does that, she's protecting anybody visualizing anything, because her hands are literally around that area of her body. But when a man goes into ruku, then he goes into ruku at sort of 90 degrees. So these are his legs, and this is his back, and he's at 90 degrees. When a woman goes into ruku, she's at more like that, as an obtuse angle. Okay, why? Because this is sharp. The man's posterior will be sticking out, and it's not appropriate for a woman's posterior to be sticking out. So when she's like that, it means it's a smoother curve, so her posterior does not stick out. Similarly, when a man goes into sajda, he will also be in such a way that his elbows will be out, which means he can be visualized from here and from here. Also, he will push himself away from the ground. His thighs will not come in onto his torso, like so that a cat could go in that gap underneath, and his bottom is sort of literally sticking up in the air, it's sharp up. A woman will do the opposite. She will bring her arms in. She will place her chest and her torso on her thighs, okay, and she will literally be like a little little mound. Okay. When a man goes into yani qoma, yani tashahud, then he will sit straight. He will rest his posterior on his left heel, and his right foot he will stand. Okay. And he will be sort of visible. His torso will be away from his thighs, and he will be more upright. Whereas a woman will move her legs to the side, which will mean that her posterior is now covered, because on the one side her thighs are that side, on the other side her legs are that side, and she will sit like that. So it's always made in that way, so that a woman's salah is because remember, women used to back in the time of the Prophet ﷺ pray in the masjid, and therefore it was more appropriate for them not to be visible in that way. And we've just spoke about the aura, so that should just further emphasize that point. While praying, sometimes I hear music of cartoon my son watches in the other room. Is salah valid? Yes, salah is valid, but you've got to be a little bit careful. One is obviously praying in areas where you can hear music or other things, whatever. It's going to be difficult for you to concentrate. I know it's not easy for sisters when they've got children to try to concentrate, because for chaps it's a lot easier. We kind of move away from the house, move away from the challenges of the house, whereas a woman is a full-time mother. She can't just switch off being a mother. But what they need to be a little bit of give and take between husband and wife, so that she has also her quality worship time, because that worship time is quality for you. And if you are going to be a mother and are a mother for the next 20 years and you pass away within that time, then you've never had some quality time for worshiping Allah. And what a sad state of affairs that would be, that that you never really got that connect time. They always talk about quality time where you need to just kind of switch off and go and have a cup of coffee or whatever, go for a walk or something. Then likewise, worship needs to be quality time. You need quality time with Allah. You need to give him the best of your time. So you've got to do it in such a way that you're not thinking about the child. And similarly, obviously, you don't want to get the child too accustomed to music, because music is one of those kind of things which is addictive. We know that. And when it becomes addictive at a very young age, it starts to become kind of instrumental in the way they think, because it becomes part of their upbringing. So then it becomes very difficult to detangle the child from the music and all the rest of it. So, you just have to be careful how you do that and how you bring that about. I've also observed women praying in the same room while kids' cartoon is on. Is it permissible? No, it's not appropriate. It's not appropriate. Will the salah still be valid? Yes, but will it lack true khushu and khudu? Yes, absolutely. It might be that a person's just going through the actions. Yes, they're completing their fard, but they're just really just going through the actions. Now, why would anybody want to worship Allah just by just going through the actions? It's a case of that true quality time. Spend some true quality time with Allah. Should I keep my hijab on in front of non-Muslim women? Do I understand it correctly? So the first thing is that what do we mean by hijab? Now, hijab is a concept. Hijab means to not permit the intermingling of the genders. Hijab means that a woman is restricted in her visibility to the outside world. That's what hijab means. So, for example, women tended not to, as we've said before, go out that much, and they would restrict themselves to their homes. But whenever they needed to go out, they would get a large sheet and place it over their heads and throw one over one shoulder and throw the other over the other shoulder, and just, allow basically a space for one eye so that they could see the way. And that would be it. That's what they would wear. What happened then over the period of time, I'm not sure why, but more because probably of fashion, that one garment became 3 garments. One is what sisters will call jilbab or abaya. One is, as the sisters referring to, the hijab, and one is the niqab. So what used to be one cloth which went over the person's head and then thrown over one shoulder and thrown over the other shoulder, which covered the whole face, because this bit covered the head. I don't have a shawl here or something, otherwise I'd show you. Obviously the shawl would come over the head, one bit would go over, so when she throw this over this shoulder and throw that over that shoulder, then all would be left is just one eye would be visible, and that one eye would be visible is what she would see with, and that would be it. But then, like we said, now, you know, then we had the jilbab abaya, headscarf, and face covering. Okay. So in front of a non-Muslim woman, again, it would be how comfortable, you know, the sister felt in front of this person. And if she wanted to remove a headscarf, then there's not an issue. The only fear that she has is that sometimes women have a habit of describing women to men. So one assumes, because it happens amongst Muslim women, one assumes it's going to happen more so in non-Muslim women. So if the woman has got nice hair, I don't know, and, you know, this woman is then going to go and, you know, say, oh, you know, Stephen, I know you've never seen, you know, Sarah without a headscarf, but yeah, you know, she has blonde hair and she has little streaks in it and whatever, and she's now describing it to Stephen, then obviously it's problematic. Okay, whereas a Muslim woman wouldn't describe, usually, a Muslim woman wouldn't describe a fellow Muslim woman to a man. Okay, that's usually the case. As I said, you know, things have changed in time. So that's the rationale. So yeah, if a woman didn't kind of feel that you know that she's going to start describing, obviously, and also with regards to non-Muslim women now, because in the kind of liberal society we live in, before it was simple that a woman was a woman, okay, and women liked men, so I feel safe here because this woman is never going to look at me in that kind of way. But now even women like women, so now a Muslim woman might think, well, okay, I don't know which way this lady is thinking, so I don't want to kind of give her any signal in any way, shape, or form that. So, you know, this is the difficulty that we're walking in. So really, in front of a non-Muslim woman, it's something where you yourself got to know the woman and how confident you feel in revealing yourself in whatever way. Could you please briefly tell us what does taqlid mean? Yeah, so taqlid is a technical term, and a taqlid is a technical term which ulama adopt. Now, I know many people think they're doing taqlid, but they're not doing taqlid. Taqlid is where you accept a person's understanding of the deen without necessarily understanding the sources from where it came from. So, you know, a scholar will, so for example, you know, I do taqlid, say, for example, to the Hanafi school. So I adopt the Hanafi school in particular. So I will adopt that and follow that, and I won't necessarily challenge positions the school has adopted based on the sources. So that's what taqlid is. Okay, everybody does it, even those people who claim that they don't do it, they do it. Everybody does taqlid. It's just who they're doing taqlid to. So you'll find, for example, some people will say, oh, you know, I don't find this hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari. How can you brothers pray like this? Or how does these women pray like this when I don't find the hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari? So by that definition, that brother is doing taqlid of Imam Bukhari. So we're all doing taqlid. It just depends who we're doing taqlid of. And that literally means we follow that person in terms of the positions they adopt, in a more simplest of terms. What is the best method for making a will? I'm not sure what best method is. There is only one method, and that is basically to write down any debts you have, both to humans and to Allah, and you write down your assets, or whatever you have. So everybody knows, you know, all that secret bank accounts and under the floorboards in the office and every other little place and the cookies box in the kitchen, everywhere where you've hidden your money, and anything that people may not be aware of, and you make a note of that. And then all you have to say in your will is that I want it to be distributed according to the Sharia as understood by the legal school, the Hanafi legal school. And then it would make sense maybe to name some scholars that, that please go to this particular scholar. And if that scholar is not available or is not alive, then go to this particular scholar. And if that scholar is not alive or not available, then go to this particular scholar. And if none are available, then go to the most prominent Hanafi scholar in my city, something like that. So at least your solicitor will know where to go when it comes to distributing your wealth. And that's really about it. Get it witnessed and it's done. It's there. And then obviously share it with your family members so that they know that you have a will. And if you're unsure or you think my family members might not be that trustworthy, then you can also have one left at a solicitor's. So at least there is proof of it, that when I pass, there will be something protected there. Okay. Barakallah fiqh. So let me just send this. Is it allowed to receive social benefits? Yes, it is allowed to receive social benefits if you are entitled to them. So, for example, most of us living here in the UK, when we have children, we get child benefit, which is a social benefit, a support mechanism, which is there to help us raise these children, these beautiful little things. And so that what happens is that due to our financial circumstances, it doesn't mean we neglect these children, so that they get clothed properly, they get fed properly, they get cleaned properly. So their needs are met. That's what the purpose of the child benefit is, so that their needs are met. Now, if you have children and you claim it, then it's absolutely valid for you to do so. Similarly, now with things like universal credit or anything of this nature, if you are entitled to it because you are out of work and or you are low income or whatever other rationality is, and then you make a claim and it's a valid claim and they pay out for you, then it's absolutely fine for you to take it. Obviously, Shar'an, we shouldn't be a society that relies on handouts. Okay, so if there's no need to make that claim, then we should be making effort to work, especially if we're men. We should be making effort to work and to earn, because taking handouts is really for those people who are, struggling, who are, in a very difficult position. And just because we can't be bothered to work, or we can't be bothered to, go for interviews or whatever, that doesn't mean then we just sit and just claim benefits and pretend that we're sick or whatever excuses we make so that we can get more and more money. That's wrong. What we're supposed to be doing is getting on our own 2 feet. We know that, for example, when a person was begging, which is like taking benefits, but benefits is a bit clean because no one sees it. If, taking benefits was like begging, you'd see how people would be a little bit more hesitant. But because they do it behind closed doors, nobody finds out. So, so when he was begging and he was holding his hand out, the Prophet ﷺ said, why don't you go and collect some firewood from the local woods and sell that? Do that. At least you're useful. And that will be far better for you than doing this, because in this situation, somebody may give you and somebody may not give you. Whereas in that situation, you've earned it. You'll feel good. So going back to the question itself, that yes, it is allowed to receive social benefits when it is valid and you have a sound case and it is not a fraudulent claim. We cannot make fraudulent claims. We cannot say, oh, but there's no victim in this. Absolutely, there is a victim in it. Everybody who earns a wage is a victim because they pay taxes. And when they pay taxes, out of those taxes, some of it goes towards supporting people who can't work. So that's not fair, is it? That some of us have to work long hours and don't see our family and work hard and study hard and travel there, travel back, whereas there's others who are just sat around doing nothing and just taking money from us. There is a direct impact, and we'll only see that obviously on the Day of Judgment. If one does believe jinn possession, where's it gone? Where did it go? There you go. If one does believe jinn possession exists because they saw a jinn speaking through a person, will that belief that jinn possession exists be disbelief? No, but the thing is, when you say there because they saw a jinn speaking through a person, how can you see a jinn speaking through a person? You cannot see a jinn. Okay, so you cannot see a jinn. Now there are schizophrenics, right? People with split personalities that speak in different voices, wear different clothes. It's remarkable. If you look into this, there are people who have split personalities, who have, for example, 2 or 3 personalities living inside one body. Living inside one body. And each one of them is very different than the other. And the person's characteristics changes, their behavior changes, their voice changes, their mannerisms change, and yet you know that there is one person sat in front of you. So what is that? That's a jinn possession? No, it's a fragmentation of the mind. When a person's been through extreme abuse, okay, then the mind tries to keep this person sane. So what it does, it fragments it. So the bit that's abused can disappear inside, and this other character comes through. So it's remarkable. Study that, schizophrenia and all the rest of it. You'll see that most of these are, and the voice will change. So this is not evidence. Just because you hear someone speaking in a different voice, that this person is possessed by a jinn. These were the explanations that were given when people didn't understand this world and didn't understand the science of the mental breakdown. Now we understand that better. Of course, it's clear. But again, I reiterate, just so that there's no misunderstandings. The jinn, the shayateen, can impact on people without any shadow of doubt. If, for example, you believe that the jinn, jinns possess this person, then no, that will not be disbelief, because it is not something which is associated with our aqaid. Is wearing niqab fard? Interesting question. According to the Ahnaf, wearing niqab is wajib. And the reason why they say wearing niqab is wajib is because, unfortunately, we live in a very sexualized society in which people are looking at one another and looking at one another with lust. So therefore, a person should protect themselves from lustful gazes by covering the face. So the Ahnaf have said that even though the face and the hands are not part of aura, they are not that part of the body that needs to be covered all the time, the face covering comes about due to fitna. That because, unfortunately, and also, sometimes women feel uncomfortable to go out without putting anything on their face. So some women have a habit, maybe putting, and now you're going to be surprised by my vocabulary. Some people like putting concealer on. Some people might put on some blusher. Some people, they're the only two that I know, put some lipstick on. So naturally, when a woman goes out, she makes a little bit more of an effort, and therefore this becomes a source of attraction. And what she wants to avoid, obviously, is to be a source of attraction. Headscarf. Oh, I see. This is to do with the hijab that you mentioned earlier. Are child's toys with faces on them permissible for kids to play with and keep in the house, or do the angels not enter these houses? Having children's toys without any face or whatever is extremely difficult. Okay, so if you're gonna buy a toy for a child, it's gonna have something like that on it. Yeah, it's very difficult to avoid, whether it's a book, whether it's a toy, anything of that nature. So what I always say to people is have like a box which is opaque, not transparent, and let the children play with their toys. And then when they're finished playing with their toys, put all those toys inside this box. Reason being is then at least there is no visual face. So when the children have finished playing, put them away. Now when the child is falling asleep, the angels will still enter this child's room because all those toys and things are in, out of sight. They're sealed away, whatever. As I said, it's extremely difficult to find toys without that kind of thing. If you can, Bismillah, do that. But, I'm trying to give practical solutions to people, and that is a practical solution. Message retracted. So believing jinn possession is not disbelief. No, it is not considered as disbelief. Going to somebody to tell them who has done black magic on you is disbelief. Okay, because you're going to someone thinking that this person has knowledge of the unseen. That is dangerous. Okay, do not go to anyone asking questions about knowledge of the unseen, because only Allah has knowledge of the unseen. Nobody else has knowledge of the unseen. So those things one should stray well away from. Okay. Can we draw a person without drawing facial features like eyes and nose, etc.? Just draw a plus sign example instead of eyes? No, we should avoid drawing people or animate objects altogether. There is nothing to gain from that. What would a person gain from drawing a person? There's nothing, unless they're in some kind of art class and they're asked to do a portrait. But what they'd have to do is avoid doing those things. Is, first of all, art is probably not the best career choice for them. Secondly, if they are in a school and they're in the school, it's self-portrait time, then maybe beforehand the school should be made aware, and they can carry out the same skills but not necessarily on a portrait. So they can do the same skills on something else, because all it is about drawing is lines and shading and depth and things like that. So those are the skills which the teacher is trying to impart, and those skills can be imparted on so many other things. So really, I always say this to parents, is that why do teachers find out about these things right at the kind of most tense point when you refuse to do something? It's better that when your child goes to a school, you thank the teachers, you be very pleasant, very nice, bring them some gifts, get into their good books, and then sort of say, by the way, I just want to have a little chat to you because, the last school was so, thoughtful and so fair and so, compromising. And I hope that you're the same. And, just for our religious belief, and just go into the breakdown and explain it to them. And that's fine. The problem we do is we don't say anything. And then kid comes home with drawing a face, and then someone says to us, oh, that's haram. And then we sort of panicking, oh, astaghfirullah, my kid's done haram, right? I'm going to go to the school tomorrow. And then we make a big fuss, make a big scene, start waving banners outside the school. And, that could have been easily resolved by sort of saying and building. And if you're sending your child to a school that does not respect your faith, then you've made a bad choice of which school you're sending your child to. If you're sending your child to a school and that school goes, I couldn't care less about your faith, I couldn't care less about you, then, hold on a second here. How can you teach my child when you care less about the child's faith? Forget about me. That's what the child believes in. How are you going to consolidate the child's beliefs? How are you going to consolidate the child's practices when you've told me to my face that you undermine them? So that's the wrong choice. Why are you sending your child to that school? That's you made that mistake. Nobody else has made that mistake. And if you can't find any schools because they're the only local schools that you can go, and they're saying, the appeal won't go through, and they're saying it's tough, it's either this or nothing, then you should send them to a faith school. Drive them if you have to. Drive them to the local faith school. And if there's no local faith school, well, that's your problem on your community. Why don't you have a local faith school? Your community should step up. And if your community doesn't have a local faith school, then why are you living in an area that does not support your religion? So it all comes down to the choices that you've made at the end of the day. Do we take the written words, text messages of someone who is said to have schizophrenia seriously if they say write some against it? No, we shouldn't do. We shouldn't do, because this person is suffering. Okay, and is this because this person is suffering? We shouldn't take everything they say on face value. Okay, because they could be going through an episode. They could be going through. So, let things be. Just, ignore them, whatever. When you see that person, have a chat with them. But no, absolutely not. We should not take them on face value, even if they utter things which are pretty silly, pretty dangerous. Then you just obviously, if they're saying something dangerous against themselves, then I think you should be intervening. But the faith of a person who is, suffering from kind of these mental lapses and episodes, it will still remain intact. To a certain extent, it would be argued that how culpable and how responsible is that person? That's a different thing altogether on Yawm al-Qiyamah. What kind of questions will this person be expected to answer if, unfortunately, they have these issues and they struggle with their day-to-day understanding of things? Example, illustrating a book for Islamic book. Yeah, I would avoid features altogether if you can. Just kind of, I don't understand why, we have to have them in there. It's better just to maybe have the room and something like that and avoid that altogether. One is having them already there, or even recruit a non-Muslim illustrator, because at least that hukum doesn't apply to them. And the Muslim illustrators do the other bits, and they don't do that part. Let me just have a look on Facebook, because I've completely ignored Facebook. Alaikum salam, brother. So some brother starts watching and then he says, please take me off your mailing list. I never emailed you, Yara. I don't know what you're talking about. I went live and you joined it. Ajib banda. Okay, that's that. Maybe that's one of the reasons why I didn't look on there. Last couple of minutes, people. So if you do have some last minute questions, please pose them. We didn't still get a chance to go through the Markaz al-Ifta wal Qāḍī questions. Inshallah, tomorrow we will do that. But last few days has been very busy. So the person who knows that such a person said something dangerous should not say anything to him. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Because once you start, debating, then they could do something even worse. You just let it slide. Like I said, I don't know this person. And if they're having these little moments where they have, good times and bad times, then maybe, if they're doing it when they're in good time, that's something. Otherwise, if this person is suffering, schizophrenic, then, you have to be, very careful. And the best thing to do is speak to whoever's supporting them as to what's the best way to engage with them. I've not had to deal with anyone who suffered for something like that, but I would say is tread carefully. This is not a point to start debating with them about their faith and not faith and what they should be saying and what they shouldn't be saying. Whatever they can do, inshallah, in their circumstances, they should do as much Salah as they can do, as much Quran as they should do, but they shouldn't be forced. They shouldn't be thinking because of the fragility of their mind. Alhamdulillah, we've hit 8 o'clock and that has cleared all those questions. So inshallah, if there's nothing else coming, then our shift is done, as they say. So till same time tomorrow, we finish the 3rd week tomorrow, don't we? Yeah, 3rd week tomorrow, complete, alhamdulillah. So 3 weeks non-stop. No holidays, for me anyway. Inshallah, we will continue because you have plenty to ask. May Allah bless you all for seeking an understanding of your deen. And what do I normally say at 8 o'clock? What I normally say at 8 o'clock is please do share whichever platform you are on, the videos with friends and family so that they benefit and watch them, and get them to also subscribe at least to one of the platforms so that they get sent a reminder. And inshallah, as we said, where there is a need, we will continue to provide the service, inshallah. May Allah accept it from us and accept it from you. Ameen. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.